Hey guys, Josh Olfert back with another video, and today we're going to talk about the best investment I've ever made. Time to think like an investor. So in terms of the best investment I've ever made, there's really three different ways you could define best investment, right? There's the dollar value gain, there's the percentage gain, the multiplier, or there's what you actually learned and what skills you may have learned that can help you going forward. If we talk about the dollar gain, well, that's real. The reason dollar gains matter is because the dollar gain that you create on an investment is actually what changes your life. It's what you spend at the end of the day. Percentage gains are a fantastic way to think about investing because it talks about the efficiency of the investment. How did we actually multiply that money we started with? And you can apply a percentage to many different types of principal amounts. So regardless of how much you have to invest, you can apply a certain percentage to any type of investment. And lastly is how much did you learn in that experience? If you're a young person, what you learn is unbelievably important. Take a skill like learning sales, for instance. If I had not gone and learned sales, that particular experience may have cost me $1,000 or $10,000 or who knows, hundreds of thousands over the course of my career if I didn't have that skill. What you learn in an investment can actually pay dividends well into the future. But enough of all that, enough of the best types of investments and percentages and dollars. What was the trade that I would consider, or the investment that I would consider was the best one that I ever made? Well, I think I know what you're here for. You want to hear about the investment that went really right. It was about 2014. I was a young person, I was just graduated out of high school, and I was working in a retail store selling suits. And I wasn't making a bunch of money. I was not making very much at all. So what I was doing is I was taking every single dollar I was earning and I was putting it into my investment account. At that time, in 2014, and maybe you can remember this, maybe you don't, but I surely do, 3D printing was the hugest thing that we were thinking. We thought 3D printing was going to be the future. We thought, you know, in a decade or 2 decades, there might not be manufacturing plants. There might not be warehouses and factories. It might just be we all have a 3D printer in our house, and every single time we need something, we can just create a template and print it in our own home. And we thought this is how things were going. There was a subculture that thought 3D printing was really the next thing. So I had been going through the internet trying to find what might be the next best 3D printing company. And through my searches, I came across this company called Art Group Worldwide. And Art Group essentially had what we call a very high short interest. And what that means is there were a ton of people betting against the company. But for some reason, there was a battle. One side of the story was people thought Art had this fantastic, innovative way of creating the next best 3D printer. And on the other side, people thought it was complete hocus pocus. People thought it was a lie. I was digging into the story and seeing if there was a way that I could maybe speculate and place a trade and see if things could go my way. So Art Group was trading at about $2 at the time. Mind you, at this time, I was 18 years old. I was making minimum wage. I didn't have much money. I was using the bus. I wasn't driving my own car. I had very little to my own name. So for me to have a trade that went my way was actually significant in terms of what it could do for my life and what I experienced. I take a position in ARC. I go on my brokerage account and I buy about $300 to $400 worth of this stock, which for me at the time, I had learned enough that I know I shouldn't put everything into one stock. So I took maybe 10% of my overall portfolio, which you can tell is small, and I placed it into this. And over the following weeks, I'm going to work. I'm, grinding away at the mall, trying to sell suits on commission. And I remember one day coming home and checking my brokerage account balance, and I had made 7 to 8x my money over the course of a few days. And that for me was the trade or the investment that sticks out in my mind because I was able to take $300 to $400 and turn it in to $2,700 to $3,000. It was the closest thing I've had to a 10x investment in my life. And at the time, I remember it so clearly because that for me was the equivalent of 2 to 3 months worth of work. So, I did what every wise investor would do. I took that money and I reinvested it and compounded it. That's a total lie. I actually withdrew it all, blew it, and went to Asia for 2 months. I went to Philippines for 2 months. I look back like, man, I should have compounded that. I literally went to the Philippines and like spent it on like just ridiculous stuff for 2 months. That is the memory that sticks out to me because it was at a time in life where that extra money made a massive change. It allowed me to experience things and travel and do things that I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise at that stage. But you know what? I'm curious to see what ARK is doing right now, because to be honest, once I withdrew that money and went to Asia and spent it all, I didn't really follow the company ever after. So if I take a look at it now, it's hilarious. It's a very funny story. It looks as if fall of 2014 was the peak. When I got out of that stock, it actually was the highest it had ever been, and it has never come back since. It's returned to being a penny stock, and today it's actually unlisted, which means that it's not on the major exchanges anymore. The company or the stock has done so poorly that it's not even registered. Now, since then, obviously there's been investments that I've made that have done great. The thing about those is that as I have progressed and as my philosophy has changed, my investment strategy has changed. Over time, as I've digested new information and learned from new mentors, found out different strategies of how to invest, my investing has become much more systematic. And what that means is it's much more rules-based. We're not taking massive bets on little things. So the way I invest now and the way that we invest on behalf of you or our clients is that we use a system or a rules-based investment strategy. And what that means is we don't speculate like we used to. We don't take big bets on certain companies and hope that we get 10x returns, because we just don't believe that's productive. Imagine you're playing a basketball game and you have a breakaway, and let's imagine for a second you're an obscenely good athlete. You have a breakaway, you have two choices. You can easily lay up for 2 points, or you can go for a 360 slam dunk and look absolutely sick. If you go for the 360 slam every time, you're gonna end up missing it half the time. But if you go for the layup, you're gonna consistently score. Now, that's really the crux of investing, is the more exciting it is, the less effective it is. With all that said, if I really look at my situation and I ask myself deeply, what is the best investment I've ever made? I think the answer is it's the business that I built, if I'm completely honest. The business I've built, if we were to look at the amount of money or cash flow that it provides for my life, and we were to try to find out what the equivalent would be worth if I was investing and trying to take that money each year, it's probably somewhere in the range of $2 to $2.5 million. And for me, what it took was probably $25,000 to $50,000 of startup money and effort. And what I'm learning is that the best investment you ever make is the investment you make in yourself. You'll have trades and you'll have investments over the course of your life that do you well and put you in a better position, but nothing really has the wealth multiplying effects like building your own business and putting real effort into something. And that to me is something I love to talk about, is the fact that the output you get from any financial activity is a matrix between the amount of risk you take, the amount of time you're willing to wait, the amount of patience you have, and the amount of money you have to start with. So if you can maximize any one of those three, that is how you create wealth in some way or another. And when you start your own business, you really maximize all of those. You put your money into it, you put your time into it, you be patient, and you take some risk. And it's obviously the case that taking or building your own business is taking a much larger risk than investing in an established business that's already there. But you get rewarded for that. There's a premium you earn for being a higher risk taker. So moral of the story is nobody has 3D printers in their house. Factories are still alive and well, and ARK Group is now a penny stock. So thank you so much for tuning into this video. If you want to see more like this, please subscribe, turn on post notifications, and hit that like button, and we'll bring you more videos just like this one every single week. Until next time.